All right, we will go ahead and get started. Okay, today you need water bottle, you need a little bit of wall. If you have blocks, you might like to have them just for one part, but if you don't have blocks, that is totally fine. I will probably not be using any. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so let's go ahead and, let me just mute everybody to make sure that no one accidentally gets on the recording. And then we'll make sure that I'm there. Okay, perfect. All right, excellent. So let's go ahead and come onto our mats in a comfortable seated position. And just rest your hands on your knees and gently close your eyes. We'll just start with a couple of deep breaths here. Inhaling and exhaling. Trying to keep your spine straight. Inhaling and exhaling. Relaxing your shoulders away from your ears. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling one more time. Inhaling and exhaling. And you can gently open your eyes and come forward onto your hands and your knees. And we're going to just start with a little spinal movement. You're just going to gently bring your chest forward, arching your back, keeping your hips over the top of your knees, and then pushing down into your hands. Push your scapula and your spine up toward the sky, and really push through those hands. And then inhaling, drop your chest down, bring your chest forward. It's almost like you're pulling backward with the palms of your hands. And then push away, pushing your spine toward the ceiling. And now let's take that out to the side. So pick a side and you're going to push your chest out to that side, keeping your arms straight as you bring your chest forward, and then push your chest out to the opposite side, and then push your spine up to the ceiling. So you're just making a big circle with your chest. And again, pushing up to the ceiling one more time in that same direction. And now go the other way, pushing your chest out toward the side, and then down to the opposite side, and then up toward the ceiling. And again, pushing your chest down to the side, up toward the ceiling one more time, out to the side, down to the other side, and up. And then bring your spine into a neutral position. And then tuck your toes under and push yourself up into a downward dog. This is just a gentle downward dog. First one of the practice, so it doesn't have to be very deep. You can bend your knees, pedaling your legs, going side to side. Try to keep your arms straight. And you can keep your legs straight if you like, or keep them a little bent, either way. Then on your next inhale, start walking your feet towards your hands. Keep your legs straight if you can. And then just hang there, fold it over. You can grab your opposite elbows if you like. You can keep your feet a couple inches apart if you like, or keep them together either way. You can sway from side to side. Or just hang there, trying to think about your head coming down toward the ground. And when you're ready, go ahead and put your hands on your hips and come all the way up to standing. And we'll go ahead and go into our sun salutation. So inhaling, arms up to the sky and look up. Exhaling, fold forward. Inhaling, look up. Take your right foot to the back of the mat. Take your left foot to the back of the mat. And now you're in plank. Pause there. And then slowly lower down to chaturanga, bringing your chest forward. Untuck your toes and bring your chest forward into upward facing dog. Your shoulders are away from your ears. And then tuck your toes and push your hips up and back into downward facing dog. And we'll stay here for a few breaths so you have time to work on this. Work on bringing your heels down toward the mat, bringing your chin towards your chest and pushing your chest toward your thighs. And your next inhale, bring your right leg up to the sky. Come forward, bring your right foot in between your hands. Bring your left foot in between your hands and fold. And inhaling, come all the way up to standing with your arms over your head. And then bring your hands to prayer. Inhaling, arms up to the sky and look up. Exhaling, fold forward. Inhaling, look up. Exhaling, take your left foot to the back of the mat. Take your right foot to the back of the mat. And then come into chaturanga, push-up position with your elbows in. Then tuck your toes, come forward to upward facing dog with your thighs off the ground. Tuck your toes under and push your hips up and back into downward facing dog. So your feet are about hip distance apart. So they shouldn't be too wide, like you shouldn't be at the edges of your mat, for example. Maybe like 6 inches or so in between your feet. Your fingers are pointed forward. Your entire palm should be flat on the mat. And you're pushing through the palm of your hand to push your shoulders and your chest away towards your thighs. On your next inhale, inhale your left leg up to the sky. Come forward, bring your left foot in between your hands. Bring your right foot in between your hands and fold. And inhale, stand up, bring your arms up to the sky, and then bring your hands to prayer. Inhaling, look up, raise your arms up to the sky. And exhaling, fold forward. Inhaling, look up. Take your right foot to the back of the mat. Take your left foot to the back of the mat and come into push-up position. Inhaling up to upward facing dog. And exhaling to downward facing dog. So you might be feeling a little bit warmer now. You might be able to push a little bit more through your hands. Your heels may be coming closer to the mat or not. Just take your time. On your next inhale, take your right leg up to the sky. Come forward and bring your right foot forward in between your hands. Bring your left foot forward and fold. And inhaling, come up to standing with your arms up overhead. Exhaling, hands to prayer. Inhaling, raise your arms up and look up. Exhaling, fold forward. Inhale and look up. Exhaling, left foot to the back of the mat, right foot to the back of the mat. Chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. And exhale, you can add another chaturanga here if you like, to downward facing dog. Just a few deep breaths here. You can think about trying to drop your armpits down toward the ground as you push your chest back. On your next inhale, bring your left leg up to the sky. Coming forward, bring your left foot forward, bring your right foot forward and fold. And inhale and come up to standing, the arms up overhead, and then bring your hands to prayer at the heart. And we'll go into series B. So inhaling, sit your bottom down like you're sitting in a chair, and bring your arms up overhead. You should still be able to look down and see your toes, but try to keep your chest lifted. And then exhaling, fold forward. Inhaling, look up. Exhaling, take your right foot to the back of the mat, your left foot to the back of the mat, chaturanga. Inhale to upward facing dog, and exhale to downward facing dog. On your next inhale, take your right leg up to the sky, bring your right foot forward in between your hands, swivel your left heel down, so you're coming into warrior one. Your front knee is bent, your back leg is straight with weight going to the outer edge of your back foot, your hips are facing forward, and you can bring your arms up toward the sky and look up if you like. Exhaling, hands on either side of that foot, right foot to the back of the mat, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog, and exhale to downward facing dog. Inhaling, take your left leg to the sky, bring your left foot forward, swivel your right heel down, warrior one on this side. Again, your front knee is bent, back leg is straight, your toes are angled in about 45 or 60 degrees, your hips are facing forward, and bring your arms up to the sky. And exhaling, hands down on either side of that foot, left foot to the back of the mat, you're in plank position. Come into chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog, and exhale to downward facing dog for a few breaths. On your next inhale, bring your right leg up to the sky, bring your right leg forward, bring your left leg forward, and then sit your bottom down like you're sitting in a chair. And exhaling, fold forward, and inhaling, come all the way up to standing with your arms up to the sky, and then bring your hands to prayer at the heart. Inhaling, sit your bottom down like you're sitting in a chair, bring your arms and chest up. Exhaling, fold forward. Inhaling, look up. Take your left foot to the back of the mat, right foot to the back of the mat, and come into chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog, and exhale to downward facing dog. Now come forward into plank. Bring your right leg to the outside of your right arm, so like up to your triceps or your elbow, and either stay there or, if you can, do a push-up. And then take that right leg to the back of the mat. Then inhale your right leg up to the sky. Bring your right foot forward. Swivel your left heel down into warrior one. Exhale, hands on either side of that foot. Right leg to the back of the mat, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Come forward into plank. And then bring that left leg to the left elbow or tricep. Either stay there or do a push-up. And then take that foot to the back of the mat into downward facing dog. Then inhale your left leg to the sky. Come forward, bring your left foot forward. Swivel your right foot, right heel down, warrior one. And exhaling, hands on either side of that foot, left foot to the back of the mat, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog, and exhale, downward facing dog for a few breaths. Make sure you're really pushing through those fingers and the palms of your hands to push your chest away. On your next inhale, take your right leg up to the sky. Bring your right foot forward, bring your left foot forward, and sit in chair. And exhaling, fold forward. Then inhale all the way up to standing. And then bring your hands to prayer at the heart. Inhaling, lift your arms up to the sky and look up. Exhaling, fold forward. Inhaling, look up. Exhaling, take your left foot to the back of the mat. Take your right foot to the back of the mat and come into chaturanga. Inhaling, upward facing dog. Exhaling to downward facing dog. So before we go into our warrior ones, we're gonna do something a little bit different here. So keeping your hands and feet where they are, you're gonna come forward, and as you're coming forward, bring your hips over to one side. So you're coming forward, coming forward, coming forward, and then rolling your hips. So you're in this elevated upward dog position because you stay on the toes of your feet. And then you're gonna take your hips up and around the opposite direction. So let me show you one more time. So your hips go around to the side as you're bringing your chest and your weight forward until you're in this elevated upward dog. So your weight's on the toes of your feet and on the palms of your hands. And then you take your hips around the other way to complete a circle. So we're just gonna do 2 of those in each direction and do that at your own pace. So go first in one direction and make sure you're squeezing your bottom as you come into that up dog position to protect your lower back. And now go the other way, keeping your legs straight the whole time. And it's really about engaging your bottom, your shoulders, and your lower back. And hopefully that was about enough time to do 2 rotations in each direction. If so, go ahead and take your left leg up to the sky, bring your left foot forward, rotate your right heel down, and come into warrior one. And exhaling, hands on either side of that foot, left foot to the back of the mat, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog, and exhale to downward facing dog. Inhaling, take your right leg to the sky, bring your right foot forward, swivel your left heel down, and come into warrior one. And exhaling, hands on either side of that foot, right foot to the back of the mat, chaturanga, upward facing dog, and exhale to downward facing dog for a few breaths. On your next inhale, take your left leg up to the sky, come forward and bring your left foot forward, bring your right foot forward and fold. And sit your bottom down like you're sitting in a chair. And exhaling, fold again. And inhaling, come all the way up to standing, with your arms up overhead. And then bring your hands to prayer at the heart. So that's it for our warm up. So now we'll go into the rest of the vinyasa practice. So inhaling, arms up to the sky and look up. Exhaling, fold forward. Inhaling, look up. Take your right foot to the back of the mat. Take your left foot to the back of the mat. Chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. And exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, take your right leg up to the sky. Bring your right foot forward in between your hands. Swivel your left heel down. We're gonna come into warrior one again, and this time we're gonna stay here for a few breaths. So remember, your front knee is over the top of your front ankle, trying to make this front thigh parallel to the earth. Your back leg is straight, your toes are angled at about 45 or 60 degrees. Your hips are facing forward. Try to keep your shoulders down away from your ears. And if you can, bring your arms up to the sky. They can be clasped or they can be separate. Think about tucking your tailbone under a little bit so your bottom isn't jutting out. And we'll just stay here for a few breaths. See if you can sink down just a little bit lower. Really engaging that back leg with weight all the way to the outer edge of that back foot. Your next inhale, go ahead and place your hands on your hips and rotate your hips out toward the side. So now we're going to warrior two. You may want to scooch that back leg back a little bit. And then bring your arms up at shoulder level. So your right arm is extending out in front of you. Your left arm is behind you. Keeping that tailbone tucked under. So again, your bottom isn't jutting out behind you. It's just staying right underneath. And see if you can sit just a little bit lower. There's a tendency here to like lean your upper body over your front thigh. Try not to do that. Keep your shoulders over the top of your hips. One more breath here. Go ahead and place your hands on your hips. You're gonna rotate your hips forward and come onto the ball of that back foot. So your heel is now facing up toward the ceiling. You're in crescent. Your toes in the 2 feet, you see how like if I bring that foot forward, it's not behind my front foot. It's a little bit to the side. That'll help with your balance. You don't have to act like you're on a balance beam here. And then you can bring your arms up to the sky or keep them on your hips. And then gently and slowly bring that back knee down to the ground and untuck your toes. So now you're in this lunge position on the top of that back foot. You can rest your hands on your front knee, or if you have blocks, you can use them here. We're just gonna stay here for a couple breaths. Trying to keep your chest upright. So, you know, sometimes we bend over, grab the leg, whatever. We're not doing that right now. We're just staying upright. So you should feel a gentle stretch in that back psoas. Just a couple more breaths. All right, when you're ready, you're gonna tuck the toes of that back foot under, push on that back foot, straighten that back leg to lift yourself up. And then we're gonna go into warrior three. So you may wanna take a step or go straight into warrior three. So you're bringing your chest forward, parallel to the earth, lifting that back leg straight out behind you. That back knee is facing down toward the ground. The front leg can be bent a little bit if you need to do that. Your hands can stay in prayer position. The arms could extend behind you, or the arms could extend in front of you on either side of your ear, or your ears, I should say. We're just gonna stay here for a few breaths. Keeping your hips parallel to the earth. And now go ahead and place your right hand on the ground toward the outer edge of that foot and about maybe a foot in front of that foot. And then rotate your hips. Your left hip is stacking over the top of your right. And then take your left arm up to the sky. Now your back leg is rotated now, so your knee is facing the side of the room rather than facing down to the ground. If you can, if it feels comfortable, you can take that right hand off the ground and bring it to a half namaste position at your chest. If you have a block, your right hand can be on a block. now slowly and gently bend your front knee, placing your back leg back on the ground, back into your warrior two position. And just for a couple of breaths here. And then go ahead and cartwheel your hands down on either side of that right foot. Take the right foot to the back of the mat. You're in plank position. Then come down into chaturanga. Inhale to upward facing dog. And exhale to downward facing dog. Just a couple breaths here. You can always take a child's pose anytime you like. If you're in downward dog, on your next inhale, take your right leg up to the sky. Bring your right foot forward. Bring your left foot forward and fold. And inhaling, come all the way up to standing. And then bring your hands to prayer with the heart. Inhaling, raise your arms up and look up. Exhaling, fold forward. Inhaling, look up. Exhaling, take your left foot to the back of the mat. Take your right foot to the back of the mat. Chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. And exhale to downward facing dog. Okay, next inhale, take your left leg up to the sky. Bring your left foot forward, slowly your right heel down, coming into warrior one. So again, your hips are facing forward, your front knee is bent, your back leg is straight. You can take your arms up to the sky, grasping your hands or not. Maybe gently look up. Tilt your tailbone under. See if you can sink a little bit lower, trying to bring that front leg parallel to the earth. We'll just stay here for a few breaths. So go ahead and bring your hands down on your hips. Rotate your hips to the side. You may want to inch that back leg back just a little bit. We're going into warrior two. So still your front leg is bent and your back leg is straight. Take your arms up at about shoulder level, extending your left arm in front of you, your right arm behind you. Again, keep that tailbone tucked under rather than jutting that bottom out. And see if you can sink just a little bit lower. Now go ahead and rotate your hips forward again, coming into this crescent position. So your right foot, you're on the ball of the foot with the heel facing up toward the sky. Front knee is still bent. Hips are facing forward. And go ahead and bring your arms up to the sky. And go ahead and gently place that back knee down on the ground and untuck your toes. Again, coming into that lunge position. So pushing your hips forward, getting a stretch in this back leg psoas. You can put your hands on your front knee, or if you have blocks, you can put your hands on blocks. Kind of just gently leaning everything forward. Aside from your chest, try to keep your chest over the top of your hips. Now go ahead and tuck your back toes under. And then pushing through those toes, you're going to straighten that back leg. And now we're going to come forward. I'm just going to move back a little bit. We're going to come forward into our warrior three. So you're going to bring your chest forward and bring that leg up behind you. Forward a little bit. Keeping that back knee facing down toward the earth, your chest parallel to the earth. Your front leg can be bent a little bit if you need to. You can bring your hands alongside your body, keep them in prayer position, or extend your hands alongside your ears. Keep hitting things here. We'll just stay here for a few breaths. Now go ahead and place your left hand onto the ground in front of and toward the outer edge of your left foot. Rotate your right hip over the top of the left hip. So now your back knee is facing to the side of the room. Bring your right shoulder over the top of the left shoulder. This is half moon. And again, if you want to take that left hand into a half namaste position, you can. And now go ahead and gently place that back foot toward the back of your mat, coming into warrior two again, just for a couple of breaths. And then go ahead and bring your hands on either side of that foot, left foot to the back of the mat, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog, and exhale to downward facing dog. So on your next inhale, take your right leg up to the sky and open your hip so your hips are stacked. You can bend your right leg and be like, think about bringing, like you're not going to actually do this, but you're going to think about bringing that foot toward the ground behind you. And then look over your left shoulder toward your foot. It's a bit of a back bend. Then go ahead and extend that leg up to the sky and place that foot back down on the ground. And then switch your legs, bring your left leg up to the sky, stack your hips, bending that left leg. Again, it's like you're bringing that, or you're thinking about bringing that foot toward the ground or even toward your head as you look over your right shoulder. Then go ahead and exhale that leg straight up to the sky and then bring it down to meet your other foot, and you're in downward dog. Just a couple of breaths. On your next inhale, take your left leg up to the sky, bring your left foot forward, bring your right foot forward, and fold. And inhaling, come all the way up to standing with your arms up to the sky, and then bring your hands to prayer at the heart. Just bow your head down ever so slightly and close your eyes for a couple of deep breaths. All right, inhaling, arms up to the sky and look up. Exhaling, fold forward. Inhaling, look up. Exhaling, take your right foot to the back of the mat, left foot to the back of the mat, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog, and exhale to downward facing dog. Now we're just gonna, a couple of times, go forward and back, keeping our legs and feet, our hands and feet where they are. So you're gonna come forward keeping your chin tucked till the last minute, you're gonna come forward to a plank position and then drop your hips. So kind of like that exercise we did where we were rolling our hips out to the side, except this time your hips are just gonna come straight forward. So keeping my chin tucked, I come forward and keep my chin tucked until I get to plank. Then I drop my hips down, not all the way to the ground. So staying on the toes of the feet and pushing into my hands and then looking back. And then I tuck the chin again, pushing the hips up to the sky, back into my downward dog. So just try 2 of those. I'll go through them with you, but if you're at a different pace, that's fine. So if you're in downward dog, you're gonna keep your chin tucked, come forward into plank. And once you're in plank, drop those hips forward and down, staying on the balls of your feet, keeping your shoulders away from your ears and gently looking up. And then tuck your chin, lift your hips up, and push back into downward dog. And if you're going at my pace, one more time, gently coming forward to plank, dropping the hips down into this elevated upward dog, and then pushing your hips up and back to downward dog again. And then one more time, come forward into plank, and then slowly or lower yourself all the way down to the ground. We're gonna do, sorry, I'm just gonna check the time real quick. We're good. Okay, so we're gonna do a couple exercises here, kind of focusing on our back. So the first one is pretty easy. So you're laying down on the ground. You're gonna bring your arms up so your elbows are about kind of like shoulder level or maybe a little bit forward. And then you're gonna lift up using your back. Okay, so you're not pushing with your hands, but you're just lifting up off the ground with your hands, with your back, like this. Just a few times at your own pace. And then you go up, and then come back down. Your feet are staying on the mat. So inhaling up, exhaling down, inhaling up, exhaling down, and you're keeping your shoulders down and away from your ears. Inhaling up, and exhaling down, inhaling up, and exhaling down. Let's just do one more and then stay there just for a few seconds. So keeping your shoulders down and away from your ears, engaging your back. And go ahead and release down. You can bring your arms at either side of your body and turn your head to one side. And just relax. So now we're gonna bring our hands kind of like at your chest level on either side of your chest. The closer to your hips your hands are, the harder it is. So if your back is not super flexible, bring your hands a little bit forward. But otherwise, keeping them kind of at your chest level. You can push through your hands to bring your chest off the ground. Your hips are staying on the ground, and your feet and legs are also on the ground. You're just bringing your back up off the ground. And you're trying, if you can, to engage your upper back as much as your lower back, keeping your buttocks engaged to protect your lower back. And then your arms should be hopefully getting to the point where they're straight. Now, if you're just a little bit lower, that's fine. Don't push it. You're just trying to get engagement in your back and work on strengthening those muscles. And go ahead and come down. And maybe rotate your head to face the opposite direction that you did last time and just rest for a couple of breaths. Now go ahead and bring your hands up at your chest level again. I'm gonna push back one more time. So this is just like a cobra. Keeping our hips on the ground. And if that feels good and you want to go a little bit deeper, bring your hands closer to your hips and then come onto your fingertips. And then release gently forward again. And then we're going to do one more like this. So bringing your hands kind of at chest level, pushing up into this cobra. You're going to take one leg and bend it up, kind of like you would to go into Dhanurasana, if you know what that is. Bring the opposite hand kind of toward the middle, and then go ahead and grab that foot. Same hand, same leg. So for me right now, this is my left leg and my left hand. And I'm grabbing the top of that foot and then pushing it toward my hip. And if you can rotate your fingertips, you see how mine are, I don't know if you can see that, but they're facing my armpit and my elbow is back behind me. And I'm trying to keep my chest facing forward. And my hips are still on the ground. And then go ahead and release that leg. And I'm going to turn to show you the other side. So we're just going to do the same thing on the other leg. So you're in this cobra position. Bring up. This is now my right leg. So I'm going to bring my left hand in the middle. And I'm going to reach back. So this is, if this is where you are and that feels like a stretch, then stay there. The goal is to bring that leg wherever feels like you're getting a good stretch. So heading toward bringing that heel toward that hip. And then if you can, rotating the fingertips forward. And then again, trying to keep your chest facing forward. So it's not so much a side bend. And then go ahead and release that. And then gently push your hands, push through your hands to push your hips back towards your feet and relax in child's pose for a minute. And then come back up onto all fours. And we're gonna do just a little lunge sequence here. So go ahead and bring your right foot. I guess since I'm on the side, I'll just do the same side as your right foot forward. So kind of that deep lunge position that we were in before. So you're not, I mean, if you can do that with, depending on your range of motion. Here it is okay, but if you can take that front foot forward a little bit more and drop your hips forward, then you'll get more of a stretch in this psoas. So now go ahead and if your right foot's forward, you'll place your left hand on the inside near that foot. Bend your back knee and then see if you can grab your left leg or left foot with your right hand. Trying to keep the hips forward and down toward the ground. So you're trying to not come back here. If you are, just narrow your stance a little bit. So you should feel a deep stretch in the quads and the psoas on that left thigh. Go ahead and release that foot back. And now go ahead and bring both hands on the inside of that right foot. And if you want, you can tuck your back toes under and elevate that back leg, or you can keep that knee down. And if that feels okay, you can drop onto the elbows and forearms. And again, you can choose to have that leg extended or not. You can, if you like, I'm going to show this from the front. Some people find it easier if you rotate to the outer edge of this front foot. So rather than keeping this foot flat, you rotate it out a little bit. And that's fine. And wherever you are, drop that back knee down and come up onto both hands, and then swing your right leg back behind. And now I'll show it still from this side so you get the opposite perspective. So go ahead and bring your left leg forward, your left foot forward. Again, in this kind of deep lunge position, if you can do that. Just start here for a couple of breaths. And then go ahead and put your right hand on the ground inside of that foot. And you're gonna bend that back leg, your right leg, and grab it with your left hand. So again, trying, if you can, to keep the hips forward rather than pushing your hips back as you do that. And then rotating your chest towards your left. And you see my left foot, I do come to the outer edge of that left foot for this one. You can keep it flat too, either way. And go ahead and release that right leg, and then bring both hands on the inside of that foot. And you can tuck the back toes under and extend that leg or not, either way. And then you can come down, if you like, to your elbows and forearms. And again, if you like, you can come to the outer edge of that front foot. All right. Go ahead and if you are on your elbows, come up onto your hands, and then drop that back knee down, and then take that left foot around and sit in child's pose just for a second. And then come up onto all fours, and then lower your body all the way down to the ground. We're gonna do Dhanurasana. So you're gonna bend your knees, and then reach back and grab whatever you can, your foot, your ankle, your shin, whatever it is. And then on the count of 3, we'll lift everything up. So your chest, your thighs, everything off the ground. 1, 2, 3, go. So if you like, you can rock here. Some people like to do that. One more breath. And release down. And we'll do one more. So try not to bring your feet too far apart. I'll do this one from the front. As you do this, and my body, I know, likes to have my legs go out wide. But you're supposed to try to keep them kind of closer together. Actually, there's a version of this where you grab opposite. I can't even do it because my shoulders are so tight, but opposite heels, and then that's how close together your feet are supposed to be, theoretically. I can't do it, my shoulders are too tight. But anyway, reach back, grab your ankles, and 1, 2, 3, go. And relax. All right, I feel like we're making good progress. The next thing we're gonna do is the one thing that we're gonna do at the wall. So we've done this before, but I think it's been a minute. If you are on hardwood, you might wanna fold your mat or get some sort of padding like a t-shirt or sweatshirt or something under your knee. So you're gonna go with one foot up against the wall. So right now I'm putting my left foot up against the wall and my foot is flexed. And then I'm bringing my right foot out in front into this lunge position. So same lunge position we've done several times now today. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna think about opening our chest and our shoulders. So first you can just start by keeping your hands on your ribs. You're pushing your hips forward and then kind of arching your upper back and looking back toward the wall behind you. Okay, so let's try that all together. So hands on your ribs or upper abdomen, pushing your hips forward and then curving your upper back to look behind you. And come back up. And then let's do the same thing on the other side. So again, foot is flexed up against the bottom of that wall. I'm in this deep lunge position. I'm going to place my hands on my ribs. And I'm going to push my hips forward as I take my upper back and chest back behind me. And coming back out. And let's switch again. So left foot, if you're doing what I'm doing, left foot at the base of the wall, right foot forward. And now what you're going to do is bring your hands, and this is where if you want to use a block, you can have a block in each hand, because what we're going to try to do is bring our arms to the wall behind us. And you're going to kind of rotate around, so I'll just show you first. So you're pushing still the hips forward, and then bringing your hands behind, like that. And if you have blocks, again, you can push the blocks into the wall behind you. It makes it a little bit easier. And if you don't have blocks and you can't reach, that's okay too. You can stay here. So, you know, go to wherever your body feels like it's being pushed just a little bit, but not so much that you're going to hurt yourself. All right, so whatever you're going to do, let's do it all together. Remember to keep pushing the hips forward, and begin by arching your upper back, and then bring your hands or blocks or whatever you have to the wall behind you. And come out. It's pretty intense, so I don't stay there for that long. And then switch your legs. So again, same thing, bringing either blocks to the wall or just leaning back however far you can go, or bringing your hands to the wall. If you do bring your hands to the wall, this is the type of thing where as you work on this over time, if you can spot something on the wall, you can work on trying to gradually over time bring your hands lower and lower toward your foot. All right, so pushing your hips forward, again, arching your upper back, and bring your hands or blocks or whatever you have behind you, and push. Oof. And come back out. So hopefully by now, your shoulders should be loose, your hips should be loose, so we're pretty much ready for back bends. But before we do those, we're gonna just do a little bit of core. Okay, so we're gonna start, and we've done this before too. So you're gonna start on your elbows, and you're kind of keeping your upper body off the ground and your hips on the ground. And start by extending your legs out in front of you. And the first thing we're gonna do is just pikes. So keeping your legs straight, you're gonna bring your legs as close as you can towards your chest, and then lower them down. And you can keep the legs bent if that's more accessible for you. What you want is to make sure that your hips stay on the ground and your chest remains lifted. All right, let's go. So whichever position, legs straight or bent, bring your legs in and then lower them down. And up and in. and lower them down. Up and in, and lower and down. Remember, slow and controlled on all of these. Up and in, and lowering down. And again, lifting the legs up, and then lowering them down. A couple more, up, and then down. 2 more, up, and then down, and 1 more, up, and then down. And now what we're gonna do is you're gonna keep your upper body just as it is. And now instead of bringing the legs straight up, we're gonna bring them out and around. So out into a straddle, and then a pike, and then out, and then down, okay? So let's go ahead, bringing the legs out into a straddle, and then bringing the legs towards your chest, and then out, and then down. And again, straddling out, and then bring the legs up towards your chest, and then straddle, and back down. And then straddle, bring the legs up towards your chest, and then out, and then back down. 1 more. Bring the legs out, and then up toward your chest, and then out, and then down. And then go ahead and lower your upper body down to the ground, and lift your legs up. We're gonna do that funny thing where we try to keep our tailbone up off the ground and keeping the legs up, and then just do some crunches. So remember, your tailbone is off the ground. Just at your own pace, making sure your movements are controlled, that you're engaging your core, that you're not yanking on your head. Try to keep your legs straight if you can, and keep your tailbone lifted. Just a couple more. And 1 more. And then bend your knees, bring your knees into your chest, just for a second. And then go ahead and straighten your legs up again. And again, take that tailbone up off the ground. And now just gently lower 1 leg down and rotate your chest toward the other leg. And then switch. And remember, you can't bring that leg down very far or else your tailbone starts to drop. So these are small movements. You're just alternating side to side, trying to keep that tailbone off the ground. Couple more. And 1 more on each side. And go ahead and bring your knees to your chest. All right, so we have a few minutes to play around. I think we're going to stop there with core for today. We'll do a little bit short because I want to have time. Now that we've warmed everything up, this is like the ideal time for everybody to work on their back bends. So let's make use of that time. I'm going to give you some options, and then, you do whatever you think is going to be a good challenge for you today. So first thing is just pushing straight up into a back bend. Now, by the way, if you feel like you need to do a bridge first, feel free. Bridges, you bring your knees or your feet as close to your bottom as you can. If your arms are at your side, you should be able to touch your heels. And then keeping your shoulders and feet on the ground, you lift your hips up off the ground. That's a bridge. We're pretty warm. We've done some deep back bends, so I don't know that you necessarily need to do that, but if you feel like you want to do that, that's a good place to start. Then beyond that, starting in a similar way with your feet close to your hips, you take your hands on the ground placing the palms kind of right by your ears, and my fingers are pointing toward my shoulders. Okay, so they're not pointing away from my head, they're pointing toward me. And my elbows are pointed up. And the first little mini step is push onto your hands and come to the top of your head. So you can just work on doing that. And if that feels fine, then you place your hands on either side of your head, push through the hands, and lift up. Now, this is wheel. So if you're in wheel, you want to work on bringing your shoulders over your hands. So where people usually start is something like this, which is really hard to hold. You want to bring your shoulders forward over your hands. So that's the next step. And then if that feels fine, then the next thing is straighten those legs. And that really forces you to push into the chest and push the chest forward. So those are a few options. The next step after that is taking the leg, one leg up. But let's just start with those. I'm going to give you guys a few minutes. Pick whichever version you want, and I'm going to see if I can give anybody any tips. And then I have one more back bend variation thing to do, and then we'll do inversion and finish. The other thing some people like to do, if it helps you, you can do it. I don't really feel strongly about it, but you can do it up against a wall. So your hands are right close to the wall. And then what you do is you try to bring your chest toward the wall. So here I am in my little back bend, and then I bring my chest to the wall. Some people like that just because it tells you, where your chest is in relation to your hands. That can be helpful. Yeah, and take breaks. This isn't the type of thing where you just keep doing it straight for 10 minutes. It's too hard on your back. The other thing is you want to make sure every time you push up that you're engaging your bottom and that your feet are not too far apart. Just like we were talking about in Dhanurasana, you want to keep your feet maybe a little bit wider than hip distance apart, but not much wider than that. Most people's cameras are such that I can't quite see enough of you to be able to tell you anything, but that's totally fine. Just so you know, that's why I'm not saying anything, because I can't quite tell what anyone's doing. Oh, Ken, that's looking good. Can you straighten your legs? Usually I find to straighten my legs, if I bring them together a little bit more, it helps me. It's hard to do it from, yeah, Yeah, that's great. And Chris, there's like blades of grass. I see a human in there. Yes, that's good. That's good. Now see if you can push through your feet a little bit to push your shoulders over your hands. Yeah. Just like that. Good. All right, and then some people choosing your own adventure, which is totally fine. Okay, one last thing on back bends. So one thing that I would say is that, when I was younger, I could just do a back bend anytime, but I'm no longer a spring chicken. So I find that doing all of this stuff that we did today, like all this stuff working on opening our shoulders and all the gentle back bends first and then the deeper back bends on the ground, really make it so that it's less painful at the end when I go up into a wheel. Some classes I take, people do like no back bending, anything, and they incorporate wheel in every practice. And so they just at the end say, okay, now go into wheel. And sure, you can do it, but it just feels like crunchy in the shoulders for me, especially. I'm sure everybody feels a little bit different. But when you've like done all the work and worked all this other stuff first, then I feel like it's okay, not so bad, So anyway, one last thing that you can try for those of you who are getting up into wheel pretty easily is instead of, this is just like a kind of a more graceful way, if you will, to get into it, than just laying down and putting your hands and then pushing up. So what you do, you sit again with your heels like kind of close to your hips, and then choose a hand. I guess I'm going to go this way because I think it'll be easier for you to see. So this is my left hand on the ground behind me, and it starts kind of like how you do when you flip a dog. So you're like this, right? So both feet are facing forward, and I just have my left hand down, and I'm raising my right arm behind me. And then I basically rotate that left hand until I can place the right hand down, and then I'm in wheel. And then to get out, you can go back the same way, this way, or you can keep going and rotate to the other side. So that's just like a fun little thing for anybody who is excited about back bends, which is probably like one person. Yeah, and otherwise, yeah, you can always just work on to get there, by the way, if that's something like you think is cool or something, then you just work on doing this, which you can do from the ground, or you can do from flipping over from your vinyasa. So you can just do this multiple times. You just lift up. And then the key is when you lift up and you extend that arm, try to look down behind you. And then you come back. So that's how you can work it. And if you want to work it from down dog and flipping your dog, then so you go into downward dog. I'm going to take my left leg. And then this is that thing that we did earlier, and I just didn't have you do it all the way. So then you can take that foot down, and then you're in that same position. So you can get there from down dog, or you can just get there from a seated position, which is easier if it's something you're working on. It'll take less energy to go from seated than it will to go from down dog every time. But if you want to like incorporate it into your vinyasa flow, then you can do it from down dog. Let me just see if I have any tips for anybody. Anybody doing anything? Everybody tired? Yeah, Chris, that looks really good. Yeah, that looks really good. So the next thing you want to do from there, I don't know if you're saying something to me, but I can't tell. But the next thing you want to do from there is you have to rotate that hand that's on the ground. Like you'll never be able to get the other hand until you rotate the bottom hand. So let me just show that one more time for people who are trying it. So this is my left hand. Or here, let's do the right hand this time. So we'll even it out. This is my right hand down on the ground behind me. First thing I do is lift up, chest up, and then I rotate so my fingers are going away from you guys. So I can come this way and then rotate so the fingers are toward my body. And it's the same thing, like I'm going to come out this way. So now I rotate my left hand first and then come around. Sarah, can you push your hips up more? Yeah. And maybe keep your feet out a little bit further just to work on, I'll get to that question in just a second. Sarah, your feet, at the very beginning, I don't keep my feet super close See how far apart they are? Like they're pretty far from the hand. Until I rotate and then put the hand down, then I can work on bringing the feet in. But to get up from that position, if your feet are too close, it's a little bit hard. Okay, and then Chris's question was rotating, which way are you rotating the arm that's down? So you are rotating it externally. Yeah, that's right, because you're starting with the fingers pointing backward, and then they're pointing, so yeah, that's external rotation. You're pointing out to the side that you're trying to get to. So here, my left hand is down. I rotate my fingertips toward where my right hand is going to go. Yeah, so that's external.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. All right, wherever you are, just finish up that last attempt of whatever you're working on. And let's do a little gentle spinal twist. So take your right leg, come into a seated position, and take your right leg, your right foot outside of your left thigh, if you can. And then take your left hand to the outside of that right thigh, placing your right hand behind you and look behind. And go ahead and release. And then swap your legs. So your left foot is outside your right thigh. And bring your right arm to the outside of your left thigh. Place your left hand behind you and look back. And untwist. And then just for 1 second, straighten your legs out in front of you and let's do just a gentle forward fold. So you can grab your ankles or your feet or whatever is around you. And just think about bringing your belly onto your thighs and extending your head forward. And go ahead and rise up and then gently lower yourself all the way down to the ground, coming to Shavasana. So relax, focus on your breathing. Try not to think about all the things that you have to get done. They'll wait.
When you came to me with your bad dreams and your fears, it's easy to see you've been crying. Seems like everywhere you turn, catastrophe reigns. Who really bothers from the dying? in my arms. Oh, I could hold you forever. When you kissed my lips, with my mouth so full of questions, my worried mind was your quiet. Place your hands on my face, close my eyes and say that love is a poor man's food, no prophesy. I could hold you in my arms. I could hold you forever. And I could hold you in my arms. Oh, I could hold you forever.
All right, go ahead and start wiggling your fingers and your toes, bringing awareness back to your body. Maybe move your wrists and your ankles around. Maybe give yourself a nice stretch, stretching your arms up overhead and extending your legs out in front of you. And when you're ready, you can roll onto your side, making a cushion for your head with your arms, and then push yourself up to a seated position. Well, thank you all for joining today. It was, as you see, a lot of back. Hopefully that was okay for folks. Always welcome feedback and requests if anybody has any thoughts. And I hope everybody has a lovely day and weekend. Namaste.